Hi, my name is Tarek Morshed with the Morshed Group at Sothebys, where we specialize in representing entrepreneurs and founders in residential real estate. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Home Podcast. This podcast is where Austin's most successful men and women discuss their business journeys and the entrepreneurial home that empowers them to thrive in business and in their life. On today's episode, we have Kellan Vincent of Vincent Landscapes, Inc., someone who I've gotten to really know well over the last, I'd say, about 2 years. We are in Entrepreneurs Organization Accelerator program, or I should say we were. Vincent's moved on to the big leagues in EO, but it's just been really great to have some conversations we've had around the entrepreneurial journey. There's been, a lot of learning, I think, even in our small conversations, whether it's in life and family and how that shows up in our work, as well as even down to tactical things like we've recently talked about around hiring, staffing, and companies that help us do that better. So I'm excited to have him on here today, guys, because I think Kellan is someone who actually, when he came into Accelerator, him and his company certainly were in a position already to go into the next step and be in the full Entrepreneurs Organization program, where your company's generating $1 million or above in revenues on an annual basis. However, he just saw a real importance in creating great fundamentals and take that journey, which I think is such an important piece of our entrepreneurial journey, right? Having said all that, let's get into a little bit about the company, and then I'm going to jump in and ask you some questions and such. So a little bit of background on Vincent Landscapes, Inc. With over a decade of experience in the landscape design, construction, and architectural lighting industry, specializing in projects that require creative solutions to novel, challenging problems, Kellan Vincent enjoys working with his talented team to push the boundaries within the realm of possibility to create beautiful, inspirational places. Vincent Landscapes, Inc. is a family-owned and operated company in Austin, Texas, that creates incredible built landscapes through growing relationships, innovative design, premium construction practices, and excellent continuing support services. Their aim is to create incredible landscape projects that not only stand the test of time, but improve with it. I like that. It's really cool. They strive to create projects that are not only beautiful, but change the lives of their clients by extending their living spaces into the outdoors. By the way, when I've read this a couple of times, I felt that I'm listening to, a architect with great vision and who really wants to create something that 10, 20 years from now has a legacy almost to it. And it's really cool that it sounds almost that that's how you guys approach landscaping and projects related to that, and see it as such a holistic approach.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really cool. Really cool. And I guess that's maybe a kind of a cool, maybe not cool, but just a good segue to talk about, that was a lot I just shared with our audience, right? But if you could maybe encapsulate it and say, okay, well, what are your three uniques as a business, and maybe help people understand that, because obviously in the landscape here in Austin, Texas, or in most places, there's so many choices.
Yep. There are generally about 800 landscape companies in our general MSA. So a lot of them are maintenance, and that sort of that's their core focus is the maintenance and small projects.
Yeah.
In order to differentiate, my background's in landscape architecture. I did public work, and that's what I got my degree in. The joke was if I didn't end up getting a degree or ended up going to college, I'd end up in the family business, and started in for computer animation, switched to landscape architecture, and I'm in the family business ultimately. So it didn't really, it was a long way around the inevitable result. But as far as our differentiators, I think our design is probably one of our biggest. We're very design centric. Even if we aren't, to even approach a project, especially one that doesn't have a design existing, that is actually a product that we deliver on its own. So instead of having that be either a lost lead or something that is kind of a way to get the job, that is a job for us. And then past that point, if you want to build with us, or if you want to go to another contractor, that's completely fine. But that is a big differentiator for us. Is we take it very seriously. We put a lot of thought into it. There's kind of a mentality of kind of standardizing design and going that way. We have each project is unique. Each project has its own challenges, and we want an identity. We want something to be bigger than us, and survive. And it kind of tails into construction. Having a company that can do that high-end design and then have the construction professionals basically to back it up is kind of a rarity. So you can get people who live in their tower, design tower, and people in the construction tower, but that mix and the collaboration, we run our teams very collaborative. We essentially have group meetings with all project managers, all our technicians, and we come up with solutions together a lot of the time, which is it shows the result. And then last time we just have the last differentiator is essentially we just execute things and take risks on new and innovative ideas to teach us as a company, and then also just actually perform something that really hasn't been seen or done in this space before. So.
Oh, got it. And the second one that you were mentioning, I almost hear it as, and I guess it encapsulates the first differentiator. I'm almost hearing it as, while you hear about design, build, architect firms, you never hear about design, build, landscape firms that actually have someone who's got a landscape architect background, which is also pretty unique in the landscape space. I think that there's a lot of landscaping companies, but very few have that kind of true knowledge behind them, right?
And scale.
Accreditation and scale, yeah. That's really cool. I like that. And on the third one, so, I've heard some crazy stories about some of the jobs you guys have done. I remember this one time I'm hearing about literally a side of a hill having to carved into with a road being put through and all of it, right? Which sounded insane for a landscape company to take on, but that really hit it home for me as a differentiator. So, how about sharing with our audience an example of maybe some you guys have worked on recently like that?
What I frequently tell people is, and clients actually, is one of my favorite openers, is we get the projects no one else wants. So we get stuff.
That's a differentiator.
Yeah, we get stuff off the side of a cliff or stuff that is so technically involved that it just becomes a hazard, or you have to have such a strong skill set in almost every facet of the business that you can easily lose your shirt on stuff like that. And so if it's got literally off a cliff or super challenging, we do a lot of commercial scale construction on residential properties, or at least commercial style construction. So we've got a project coming up that's got 600-700 yards of concrete in it for a residential property. We've had acres worth of turf on single properties, lighting systems that are actually interactive, and where as you move through the space it actually adapts. So we've done some pretty crazy things. The one you're referring to on the hillside, we had to literally build a road up this really steep hillside and start building walls and demolishing the walls, or demolishing the road as we started moving down, because it was so steep we couldn't actually get normal machinery up without creating switchbacks. So stuff like that it's huge logistical challenges, and then design challenges too. How do you make this stuff actually survive and last? Because one of our frequent drives for these projects is we want you to have us back to continue more work, not to have us do warranty work. And so we very much want to avoid anything under the warranty spectrum. So a lot of our stuff is over-engineered, a lot of our stuff is over-designed, but it lasts, and that's really the big reason for it.
Nice. That's amazing. I love because a lot of these jobs, I would almost imagine a commercial GC, commercial companies taking on, right? But they probably would pass on a lot of things, and then there's this gap where a lot of residential landscaping companies would never nor have the capability or knowledge or creativity to take it on, so you're really filling a gap.
And where commercial companies can do the work and execute it, they don't have the touch involved with the clientele that they're dealing with. So when you're dealing with very successful individuals, driven individuals, a lot of entrepreneurs that we know, that sort of thing, you have to kind of have a certain touch and a bit of your customer support and your customer relationship has to be extremely strong. which
Right.
that's where commercial clients tend to kind of, or commercial contractors tend to kind of fall off.
Makes
So they may be able
sense.
to execute the work, but they can't navigate that relationship with the client nearly as well, and that's really where
Yeah,
we
that makes
come in.
sense.
So.
That makes sense. And then before we segue into some of our standard questions that we do on our podcast, we'd love to hear a little bit about what are you seeing high level around landscaping trends in general right now, and just to our audience, Kellan and I have been ideating on this great possible whole new value add series around trends in different parts of real estate or business or such. And so, what's happening in landscaping that's trending, what's happening around building, which is so much tied into landscaping, and architecture and design and some of these other different components. So keep tuned on that. We'll certainly keep you guys apprised, but give us a little teaser.
Sure. I think it's no mystery, at least in the Austin area, especially mid-century modernism is hot, and we're seeing a lot of that work, a lot of steel, a lot of raw materials. So things that really weren't part of the normal construction materials now are. Board form concrete, site welded planters, all that stuff has certain learning curves and things. So I would say that's probably one of the big key things.
Got it. Nice.
Now, Austin's got a lot of water restrictions. It's got some challenges with our water infrastructure and how to navigate that. We're seeing a lot of rainwater capture systems. So
Interesting.
some pretty elaborate rainwater capture, alternative use type stuff, alternative plantings to try to keep that water use down, because ultimately it's becoming non-sustainable to have the gigantic sites with these sort of
That makes a lot of sense.
with crazy water use, right?
Right.
I would say those are probably the things that we're seeing most right now.
Interesting.
And outside of general awareness, the average consumer, the average person trying to use these services are very aware of what's available. They're very aware of where pricing can be or should be.
Yeah.
And so it's actually forcing a lot of contractors out of that really clouded flat rate model where they're hiding their costs here and there. So that's one of our core values, basic transparency. So we try to put all that stuff very up front center, exactly actually what we're making on stuff to try to overcome that, because there's a lot of, because it's a boom market, you have a lot of contractors, and some of them are really good and some of them are less good. So people are a little more, they're a little less trusting, I would say, in general. So you kind of have to prove that, I guess.
That's really cool. I like that a lot, because I think one of the things that I feel I've learned so much around EOA and accelerator programs and such is this idea of communicating your value and being transparent in that, and that, to our fellow entrepreneurs that are listening, or really whoever, that if you're in any kind of a service-based business, just being really transparent around that and providing the information in that way is really empowering to the consumer, and I think really builds trust in a powerful way, and helps you scale, I think, in a different way. It's a differentiator in itself, right?
Sure.
All right, so let's jump into some entrepreneurial questions and journey questions. Starting with, tell us about your entrepreneurial journey. You've got a pretty interesting one, actually, from what you've shared with me. So yeah, take us from wherever you'd like to start on that.
So I was always the kid with a lemonade stand. So
yeah,
I was always that kid. Had a bunch of them.
Very cool.
I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. I think it just kind of came naturally. My dad was a developer, and my mom had the landscape company. So I was in that naturally. Started working on some guitar amplifiers. I actually started a guitar amplifier business at like 17.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it didn't go very far, but it was
still
an attempt.
Yeah.
And so I kind of had that thing. Went to college, graduated, eventually joined the company, and started spinning off little ideas and little divisions. And one of them was our irrigation division. That went really well. One of them was a lighting division, and that one has gone extremely well as well, and has led to some new ventures even on that front. But yeah, so I've always kind of had that urge to create something bigger than myself, and to develop stuff that is innovative and gets people thinking. And
Nice.
So that's just kind of been it. About 6 years ago, I had a succession essentially from my mom is kind of moving into the wings a little bit more as I take the company in this new direction, which is a lot bigger scale stuff, a lot more complicated construction, which is something that while she enjoys, it's just not really where she wants to be. So that's about 5-6 years started that, and we've been growing about 30% every year. So it's been a pretty good run so far.
That's amazing. And I want to actually ask 2 quick questions on that, but just to hit on that last point, you guys are, revenue-wise, I think as a company doing 2-3 million a year or so, which is really, for a local company, that's fantastic. And obviously, you guys have scaled, and I think really again does speak to figure out your niche and really differentiate and really focus. And I think as companies and as entrepreneurs, that's one of also our biggest lessons that I think we can take into our business. But does that sound about right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to separate yourself from the general pack.
Yeah.
I turn down more work probably than I take because I essentially know where we fit, and I tell people all the time, we're too expensive if you don't need us, we're perfect if you do, and I'll basically let them know this is something that really you need us on. And a lot of times I'll go to a site and I go, you just don't need us, go to this company, or here's some ideas. So it really, knowing where we fit not only helps our revenue number, which is important, but most importantly our profit margin.
Yeah.
It keeps us doing stuff in our core that we know we can do, and we can do better than anybody else. And that's really the
and truly everybody wins, including the consumer.
Absolutely.
Right, because you're being honest about who you can really serve at the highest level or not.
Right.
Because you're not going to be a fit for someone who's wanting maybe just the typical landscaping job that's $10,000 or less. You wouldn't even be a good value for that person at the end of the day for
Right,
to
absolutely.
charge for that. So really cool. And so the 2 questions I wanted to ask about your journey is, sounds like you've been an entrepreneur at heart for the whole time, but at some point there was something that said, hey, I'm going to move in and actually scale the company that my family has. And what was that event or whatnot? And then also, what made you decide to differentiate at the point where obviously Vincent Landscapes had a certain history?
So there was a company in town, I won't name who it was, but when I first started my professional career, I kind of set this goal of I want to be like that company, or I want to replace that company, was really more my mentality. And essentially they were the hotness in the space. So they were like, everybody who is anybody uses one company, and ultimately they made some mistakes and they went bankrupt pretty quickly. And so once that gap kind of opened up, it gave us a little bit, we took some risks, we lost quite a bit of money at points trying to better our understanding of certain industries. The lighting we've had some pretty steep learning curves on. But essentially it was that goal of not just being okay with turning out a normal product. We wanted to create something that was really unique and it was almost a brand in itself, and that was really how we pushed forward. So it's always kind of been a goal. I've always kind of been on the outside of the box. Right. Is this feasible? Is it not? And that's kind of where we went with it.
Interesting. Got it. And then you getting involved in the family business, obviously you were on an entrepreneurial path anyway. What was the impetus there?
Part of it was 2008. And so I wasn't really finding anything that I thought was going to use my skills, and had some experience, had open offers at least prior to that point. And at one point I just went, okay, let's see what I can do with what I'm getting. And we had some really good infrastructure and really some good bones for the company, but it wasn't necessarily my vision of it. And then there's some early conflicts between family members at the beginning. You're trying to you had someone new.
That's really why I was asking that question.
Yeah. There's definitely some very, let's say, heated debates going on here, but and it was very much, I had some vision and I was naive at points. There were certain things that I didn't understand about how do you get these big industries to work, and there's some painful learning moments there. But then once we started getting a feel and once things started falling in place, that's when we started really going, okay, this is an identity, this is something all by itself, and the company quickly became bigger than any of us. And once that kind of got to that point, then it was like, okay, this is no longer me in a silo and making stuff work. This is a living, breathing thing that is actually, it's accelerating whether we really want to or not, and we kind of had to ride it. So there's some mistakes for sure. We're still making them, but we're just pushing further and further into what we can do, and I think that's going to happen. So. Nice.
I think it's great to hear those kinds of details again for our fellow listeners and entrepreneurs. That there are those kinds of challenges, whether it's family related or not, but especially in a family environment. So guys, if you want to know how to work with family, Kellan's your man here. Hit him up.
I'll do my best.
Yeah. One of our obviously general focuses around this podcast is, hey, business and real estate are the intersection of that. I'd love to hear about, hey, how do you see the real estate market having impacted your business here in Austin,
Sure.
Texas?
I mean, outside of general cycles, that's always gonna have even where we're kind of positioned now, they aren't as big of an impact. Just because a lot of our clientele typically buy more properties when stuff is a little more depressed because they're trying to get that upswing, right? But we, from an office standpoint, we've kind of been in the same location. It's a really fast growing area, basically West Austin off of B Cave. And so that's been really a core centric thing. We've looked to move. We're kind of running out of room where we are, but given where we are and the accessibility that we have, it just doesn't seem to make sense. So we're probably going to keep redeveloping that property each time we need to grow, which has kind of been the strategy there. But we deal a lot with the real estate. We work with clients. They'll have a 5-acre property they're talking about purchasing. We'll go to there and they'll ask us, where do you think the landscape's going to run? Who should we work with? What are some builder suggestions? We'll kind of help them do some pre-feasibility studies on what they think this could run, what their goals are, and see okay, if I do this, am I going to have an okay ROI if I sell? So we deal a lot on that too, as far as helping them make some big decisions in their lives and in their investments and that sort of thing.
So yeah, it sounds like, I would have never connected the dot between the real estate market and a landscaping company in this way, but both where we're at in the cycle, but also in your specific case, given the kind of investments folks are making in these landscaping projects, can they really pull that out relevant to where is the real estate market going and pricing within that and everything that comes with it. That's pretty interesting. And I love again, one of the things I think that gets lost in entrepreneurs and in businesses, are you a consultant and are you value add outside of the one thing that you do? And it sounds like you guys are bringing a ton of value add and taking almost a consultative approach to let people know, hey, you should or shouldn't do this, and giving them an honest opinion around that,
and
which is huge.
Right, and it lets them feel like they're taken care of.
Absolutely.
Really, it makes their life easy, which we've learned. That's the best thing you can do is make their life easy. And so that's part of that. We provide contractors, even if it's not going through us, if they need them. If I need an electrician, we'll make recommendations. So a little bit of concierge stuff there too to help them on their way, which really solidifies the relationship and keeps us working.
Very nice. All right. How important is an entrepreneur's surrounding environment, whether it be at home, co-work space, or even in their office? And what do you guys do that works for you guys in terms of creating success in the working environment?
I think our office, we've kind of designed it to be functional. We're built into the end of some storage units that I redesigned to basically be an office. Yeah, it worked out pretty well.
Very cool.
But we have these really ultra modern whiteboards everywhere, and so we have a lot of creative and technical people. So we have stuff all over every whiteboard at every time, filling up multiple whiteboards all the time. It's very low tech, but it works for getting these ideas across. So there's sketches all over our office. So having that ability to collaborate there, I think, is super key, and that's been a big focus with our office. Now, personally, I designed my house actually where I live now. So we moved out far west Austin, kind of the Lakeway area, but I wanted land so I could have some time to kind of decompress, and then I kind of designed the house like an art gallery, so a whole lot of natural light, and then some really strong modern lines, and of course some decent lighting design on the inside. So it's really a place I can feel calm, relaxed, and get kind of a creative flow process, which is super important for my work style. Is being in the regular zoo at the office so frequently, I'll go I'll go work from home, go work from my office. That way I can get into this creative flow without being interrupted.
Yeah, that's huge. I think you're hitting on some incredibly impactful things here, as entrepreneurs or just in any kind of work situation, even if you're not an entrepreneur, to really get in a flow, and I think getting that creative process and where the aha thing comes out, you really need to be working in a space that supports that.
Sure.
Whether that's in your home or you got to get out of the home. And I love what you're talking about, where it sounds like you've got a lot of natural light, you've got nature that's a focus, which helps you decompress, and then you have enough alone time in your work environment, that those ideas can really flow.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think those are all things that I've also mentioned that, are super key in anybody's productivity in a work office environment, especially at their home or even at their office. So I really like that you shared that. All right, any hacks or tips to get into talking about flow, get into the flow of work in office or at home or in a co-working space that work for you?
For me, I have to disconnect. So I typically move myself out of the office, whether that's in a coffee shop, whether that's I have some noise canceling headphones occasionally I put on just to try to lock myself kind of with myself. But for flow, I have to kind of ditch the email. Often I actually don't read my emails on Fridays because part of the reason is I don't like that interruption. And so,
Got it.
I want to be able to think, I want to be able to get in a flow state without constant, because if I'm at the office during the normal workday, it's hundreds of fires a week that are all being put out at once, and I have quite a few employees that are all, trying to pick my brain about different things. So having that separation is huge for me, and then getting into a place that's stimulating enough but not too stimulating. So like kind of getting a place that has some movement, has some energy to it, but is not like in your face, basically. Like I work a lot from coffee shops, just various places for that same reason. And as long as I can keep my tendency to eavesdrop out of the equation, it's does that pretty well. So
Yeah, hey, that coffee shop, I think by where you live is probably a great example, right? I forget the name. What's it called?
Greater Goods up the street's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's got a nice balance of energy in the space, people, and so you feel that energy kind of helps drive you, but it's not so overwhelming that it's distracting.
Right. And I've been doing that for 15 years, so I think it's just natural at this point. But
Right. That's great. Let's see here. I think a good closing question. What entrepreneurial event or regular gathering do you look most forward to in Austin, or even just, what organizations as an entrepreneur are you part of that you really feel like has helped you grow?
Sure. I would say Entrepreneurs Organization, obviously, is probably one of my key things. It's been instrumental in not only getting to know the entrepreneurial landscape in Austin and abroad even, but there's just a good group of people and a lot of ability to glean, even if it's not your industry, you can glean ideas from almost anything. Like one of my good friends is a CPG guy, and I've learned so much about how he's dealt with financing and leverage and different things like that I don't deal with on a regular basis. But as my ventures kind of get bigger and change, that's actually going to be more in play. So, and with EO, there's also that element of you have a closeness and a huge amount of kind of brutal openness. So that the 5% share type element that you have that I think is extremely unique to the entrepreneur group and entrepreneurs in general.
Yeah.
I'm a big mental health advocate, and entrepreneurs have a tough time a lot of time. Stuff's always crazy, it's always changing. You really don't have any way to settle down with anything. So having that support structure to kind of guide you through some of the craziness has been really key for me as far as moving forward and advancing. So
Nice. I love all that, and I couldn't agree more. It's I think relatedness when we go through our tough times and struggles, as business owners, that doesn't happen just in business, it happens in our personal lives, and it's kind of all one superfluous thing when you're owning your own business and running your own business, and having relatedness to that's not just anybody and everybody, and so that kind of a support group, and I think that's the main thing, is whether you're an entrepreneur or not, find the one thing that really supports your growth.
Yes.
And your personal health in that regard. So, Kellan, anything else you'd like to share? This has been so much fun to talk about everything. Anything you'd like to share about the company or to the audience in general, or just wanted to kind of check in before we wrap up here.
Sure. I appreciate you having me. We be on the lookout. We're doing some sponsorship with this company and a new little venture we have. There's some events around Austin, some public artworks that we're going to be kind of a part of. So we'll kind of keep y'all updated and go from there.
Very cool. And what's for our audience? What's website?
So you can find us either at vincentlandscapesinc.com. We also are on Instagram, we're on Facebook. Instagram and Facebook are kind of like our current running projects,
Right.
and the kind of behind the scenes of this is where we are, this is what we're doing.
Nice.
A lot of night shots and a lot of night work. And we've been on various different publications and some television and film stuff. So yeah,
Awesome.
just take a look, and our
Awesome.
website has a lot of the information, but otherwise you can hit me up on email too. So
Perfect. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us. It's been really a lot of fun. Kellan, thank you for making this happen. Looking forward to doing more as I was sharing with our audience around bringing a lot more conversation and value add.
Cool.
Again, thanks for joining us, everybody. If you guys want to look at past podcasts or, of course, any future ones, www.tarekmorshed.com. That will change here soon. But that's a good place, and of course our social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Thanks for joining. Have a great day.